Right, so Jeff Kirinyaga live at Citizen Television. It is time. Start tweeting, texting, commenting. My guest, exclusively, first time in many months, Kirinyaga Jubilee gubernatorial candidate and Waiguru. Now, here's the story. A few months ago, Public Accounts Committee in Parliament recommended, or rather investigated, and also interviewed her and several others regarding the NYS scam. It turns out it wasn't 791 million shillings, it was close to 2 billion. We don't know the real amount. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, same pack recommended that Anne Waiguru not only be barred from running for public office, but she submits to a lifestyle audit and gets investigated. Today, or rather yesterday, she moved to the High Court to block the EACC from investigating her so that she can run for Kirinyaga. That's where we stand right now. So, the question is, and a lot of people are asking this, why would you want the EACC to be blocked if you're innocent?
Let me correct you, Jeff, and let me start by correcting you and the media. The PAC report did not recommend that I do not hold public office. I repeat, the PAC report did not recommend that I do not hold public office. The PAC report said, investigate, and in case you find her guilty, then bar her. And I have responded to this issue before, Jeff, and I've said this. That issue of if found guilty, bar her, doesn't apply only to me. Anyone who's investigated and found guilty should be barred from holding public office. So it's not something unique to me. It's something that the media keeps twisting, and I can hear you've also done the same, twisting what the PAC report said. The PAC report said, investigate her. Let me finish.
Yep. Investigate
her, and if found guilty. And before you interject, let me say this. Now, you ask, why would I ask that the EACC doesn't investigate? I want to take you back to the beginning of the PAC. EACC had investigated. In fact, in February 7th, 2015, they had cleared me. Then CID also. And then PAC came and said they did not do a good job. We will do it ourselves. Isn't it? So they called a whole of people about a year later, come up with the recommendation because they didn't find anything, to the same institution that had finished investigating to investigate. And that is why I went to court. And I did not tell the court to bar EACC from investigating me. I said the conclusions that are in the PAC report are inconsistent with their findings. And therefore, you expunge those conclusions because they are not informed by the report. And why do I say that? There is nowhere in the report where they say I am linked. They checked, they did not find anything.
But no, PAC did conclude that you were the architect.
No, that is subjective. That is subjective.
Why is that subjective?
Because there was no evidence presented. And if you read my court papers, there is absolutely nothing that showed them that I was an architect. And I think this media orchestration of this story, which has actually been done very well by the same people who wanted me out of office, and you have brought it because it's been the same narrative that has been put out there, and everybody has said believing that actually the PAC did. The PAC said they didn't find, and what they've said is that, look, somebody came here and said all these companies are hers, 25, I think 30, or associated with her. So go check. If you find, then you hold her responsible. In fact, let me say something very interesting, Jeff, that I find, and I think it's very important for you people to ask yourselves, if really this PAC conversation is about integrity. That PAC report does recommend some people to be charged. Are you aware?
Yeah, there's about, at least several of them.
I haven't seen that in the headlines. Which is more serious? Investigate, and if you find, or charge somebody for an offense that is already determined by a PAC.
So you're saying you're a scapegoat? Is that what you're saying?
I am saying I'm a scapegoat. It's a fact. And I'll say this again. I'm a scapegoat. I've been a scapegoat from the beginning. And what happened is that there's been a narrative that has been drawn. They thought they would find something. They didn't find anything. They called, and by the way, if you read my court papers, it says that the CID came before PAC. They gave evidence to even the effect saying that Josephine Kafura was found to have lied under oath and actually has been recommended by the CID to be charged for perjury. They hide that. EACC came and said, we don't have anything tangible on connecting Waiguru, and we have been checking for the last 2 years. They ignored that, and then they say somebody came here and said these companies are ours. These companies, by the way, they wrote to the company registrar, they got the names of the directors, they wrote to all the banks, they checked who are the signatories and associates. They didn't find me anywhere, but because they're political benefactors, and I'll be very clear, it's because I sued Raila. You know, it's because they're political benefactors, and I am in court with Raila on defamation. They needed to say something consistent with the case Raila is presenting in court.
What do the directors have to do with Raila?
I'm talking about the directors, the PAC had to say something that was consistent. If you look at, for example, the recommendation on lifestyle audit, that actually started with Raila in court. When I said, prove that I stole. Because you went to Kibera and you went to Uhuru Park and said that I have stolen $1 billion shillings. Surely you should have a little bit of evidence to show that I have stolen.
Before you finish.
And Raila said, let her have a lifestyle audit done. He said that in court. Then the same recommendation comes out in the PAC. Why? Are you surprised? The chair of the PAC is from his party.
But if I were you,
half the members are from his party.
If I were you and I was innocent, why not just go through the lifestyle audit?
They've already done it, by the way, Jeff. What you should do is you ask EACC to produce it. They already did it. They've been doing investigations for the last 2 years, but they didn't want to listen. They said, we have done these investigations, we haven't found anything. PAC said, no, we are better at doing these investigations than you. So they went through the whole process. A year later, I think 40 or so people being interviewed, many allegations have been thrown out there, and then they come out with a conclusion saying, go look again. So the same institutions they had told they didn't do a good job, go look, and they haven't given them any additional information. You see, what you're supposed to do is say, we went and found these companies associated with her, or her brother, or her uncle, or her cousin, and therefore please investigate. And there's no such thing. And what they've just done is written recommendations and conclusions which they had preconceived even before they went through the process. And Jeff, let me just say this, because I think it's important that I say this. I appeared before PAC in front of over 7 live cameras in this country. 7 live cameras from almost every station. Did you hear anything implicating me? No.
But you denied that you knew Kafura.
I did not deny. I don't know her. Even until today, I have never seen her.
But she said she's been to your house in Runda.
Well, she said. But I've also said I've never seen her. And there's no evidence whatsoever to show. And I even said, go to Safaricom, for example. Go to Safaricom. And by the way, the day she said that she went to my house in Runda, I was not living in Runda. I had already moved out of Runda. So that tells you. And I'm telling you, the CID investigated Kafura and found that she had lied under oath.
You insist you've never met this woman?
Never met her. And by the way, never met her. CID has investigated whether we've ever met. You know, you can find, it's very simple to establish these things. One of the things, because she says she was my hairdresser, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyone who does their hairs knows that at least then I should have communicated with her at least once in my lifetime. Once. Through a text, or a phone call, or a conversation, and at least somebody, other than her saying, right, should have been there to say that, yes, I was there when Anne was with. There's not a single soul or a single iota of evidence.
And there's no communication between you and her?
Never,
no
ever.
Text.
Never, ever.
Because, you know, when I want to get my hair done, I text my hairdresser.
Yes.
And I say, you know, I'm coming on Saturday.
We all do that. I mean, there's no woman who goes to a hairdresser without having to check whether, is she available, is she on duty, do you have enough time to do what it is that I want done? So, I mean, it was a fabrication. Let me say this. The same people who pushed me out of government are the same people who wrote the Kafura affidavit. If you call anyone in CID, they'll tell you. If you call NIS, they will tell you, the National Intelligence. That is why I'm still on this side and not in court.
Who are these people?
Who? The people who wrote that?
Yes.
The same people who wanted me out of government.
Who are they?
You know who they are.
Give us a name.
You know who they are.
Okay. Let's have a soundbite there. Monica, if you can hear me. Let's have that soundbite about the cat walking.
We're not going to take nonsense from anybody. We will not agree. We are going to be very firm. You know, the masterminds cannot be walking around doing catwalk on us when public money has been lost, giving us long lectures on influencing investigation, I don't know this and that. No.
Okay, so that's Deputy President William Ruto really being adamant about you being, well, running around, walking scot-free, basically. But we noticed a few weeks ago, he was in your headquarters in Kirinyaga, praising you, shaking your hand, I guess welcoming you into Jubilee or congratulating you. How does that work?
I think I wouldn't speak for him really, which I should say maybe he has seen the truth as it was. Maybe at that time he did not know. But let me say this, he actually said even the other day on TV, and I think he was on an interview right here on Citizen, he said PSC did not find anything on Waiguru. It's a fact. There is nothing. The reason why they are asking for another investigation is because now it's become a witch hunt. 2 years later we haven't found, but let's keep looking.
But why would he say that then, what he said? You know, basically we're saying you are the thief. You're the mastermind of NYS.
Everybody knows who the masterminds of NYS are.
Who are they? I don't.
I mean, it's very clear. Let me tell you, Jeff. There are people who are associated with the companies that did business with NYS. They have been in the media. It's just a convenient for people. They don't want to discuss it. They have been named. In fact, some of them have been recommended to be charged. Why then would you start saying for somebody who has not even been seen as having been connected at all with any individual or any firm that they're the mastermind? I mean, people say those kind of things, and I think it's convenient. Let me say this, Jeff. I think it's convenient for people who are affiliated to the opposition. Let me start there, because half of them were in the PSC, because they are political benefactor. This is the time when people need nominations and support to stand in their areas, need to show support to their political father, so to speak. And I have sued Raila. And I have sued Raila as on this matter of NYS. And if you look at the proceedings even in court, they are trying to drag so that we get to a situation where the case is terminated and he doesn't have to come and answer, where did you get that information from? And I believe, by the way, even for Raila, he had been duped by some people to go and use the NYS as a very convenient, especially me as a face, you know, so that somebody, we can move this corruption conversation from where it has been in the last 3 years and have Anne Waiguru as the corrupt face of this country. Let me tell you something, Jeff. Kenyans know the truth. I work in this country. I went through a nomination process. I beat the people who are running against me. And I surprised very many people. Why? Because people can see through these lies. If out there in the, they can tell you. This, we can tell, is a witch hunt. Because if it was not a witch hunt, by now they should say, she's connected to this, she has done this, and therefore we're charging her in court.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I put this notice out that you were coming, social media went ablaze.
Yeah.
People accusing me of bringing you here to sanitize you. That's what they were saying.
And that's NASA. What do you expect? If you're going to ask people affiliated to Raila, what do you expect them to say?
How far is that case gone?
It's gone far, and I'm insisting, Jeff, let me tell you, the only thing that will save Raila from coming on the dock to say why he defended me or to publicly apologize is if he becomes president, and he's not going to become president.
How do you know?
I know. The numbers tell us.
Okay. There was a guy at NYS called Kiplimo Rugut. He was the director of NYS. You had him, or maybe someone had him removed so that you could replace him with Nelson Githinji. And then everything went south from there.
Thank you.
You blaming your PS Mangiti blaming you, Githinji blaming you, you blaming everybody. It's all finger pointing. I mean, how could things have gotten so wrong and you were in charge?
Let me say this, Jeff. I think it is very obvious for anyone who wants to see that NYS created some level of interest, both for some individuals. Personally, you can tell by the people who gotten themselves into trouble because of the businesses and all, and then also politically, because NYS had an agenda to transform the way the youth are dealt with in this country, and they were going to empower the youth. One of the reasons why, for example, and I keep repeating this issue on Raila and why he got so angry with me, is I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a huge embarrassment that we actually walked into Kibera with this program and started doing things that he hasn't done in over 25 years, and people started asking, what is this that this man has been doing here, and these people have just come in 3 years later and they have transformed this place. That's where, actually, after the Robut story, December 12th, the video on Kibera, that is where my problem started.
But then 791 million shillings disappeared, maybe twice that much.
Let's start with the 791. Are you aware that it's been recovered?
No.
It's been in the papers, but nobody cares to think about it. Nobody cares to even come. It was recovered. It was recovered. It was traced to bank accounts, to individuals, and it was recovered.
By what? Asset management?
By an asset recovery agency. But every time they try and say it, nobody wants to hear that story. They want to say, no, don't say it. Because it's also a convenient lie that is very convenient for the opposition. Because if you say it's been recovered, and these are the people, then this is the first time ever, Jeff, first time in this country, that money stolen from government has been recovered. This is the first time. Goldenberg wasn't. Anglo-leasing wasn't. This was the first time. And instead of me getting a pat on the back for having called the CID to investigate and gotten the people who had actually gotten that money to return it, I get this crucifixion for a whole year, and nobody sits down and asks, wait a minute, this can't be the only corruption that's going on in this country.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Monica, let's put Kavura up. Let's see what Kavura said of how she got money out of the bank.
Her Majesty Lady Kabura, could you kindly demonstrate to us how you carried 52 million from the bank?
I would carry one at a go, then I go.
If it wasn't so sad, it would be funny. But
I mean,
she can't.
I mean, it's even ridiculous. It tells you she doesn't even know what she's saying. You know, if you remember the time I said I feel sorry for this girl, because when you look at her, you read that affidavit, she doesn't even know what she signed. Let me tell you the truth.
But she had 20 companies.
Somebody must have taken to her these companies and got her to sign. She just signed, and she just assumed that it was going to be business as usual, I guess. Because if you remember in this conversation in PAC, there was a conversation around withdrawals and deposits. Do you remember? But nobody talks about it. Does anyone talk about it? That the withdrawals from Kafura's account coincided with deposits into another account of Ben Geddes. Right? But nobody wants to talk about it.
Who was Ben
We
Geddes
want
to you?
I don't know him.
You don't know Ben Geddes?
But you interviewed him here
I did. The other
December 18th, 2015. You asked him. Yes, because I'm writing a book.
Oh, hello.
So I have the details.
Oh.
And you asked him several times, have you ever met her? He said no. Didn't you call him here?
I did. The other bench, yes.
Never seen him in my life. And you can call him again and ask him. Never seen him.
Okay.
Let me tell you something, Jeff. I think this is my opportunity to say it. I don't know whether you know that on the 7th of February 2015, there was a clearance letter that I got from EACC. I'll repeat it. On the 7th of February 2015, I had a clearance letter from EACC. They said, we have checked her, we have turned upside down, we've been to her house, we've checked everything she owns and everything she's ever bought, and we don't see any link whatsoever with this matter. Right? So the letter was addressed to the head of public service then. 7 days later, exactly, the Kafura affidavit came out. 7 days. 7 days.
So you're saying it's no coincidence?
It is not a coincidence. The reason why the letter was being written in government is because if somebody has gone home and they are cleared, they are likely to come back. And these people were determined that come rain or shine, Waiguru is not going back to that government.
But they couldn't have been that stupid to get a hairdresser to come...
Well, they were. Well, they were.
Let me ask you this. As the chief officer in your ministry, you authorized all this money. Didn't you know that money
I didn't authorize, by the way. Let's be clear.
Who has...
I never authorized a single cent.
Was it Mangiti?
The law is very clear on who authorizes expenditures. Policy is done by the minister. The actual expenditures, according to the law, are authorized by the accounting officer.
Who is?
Who was Mangiti.
Okay, so Mangiti, when you see this, I mean, doesn't he pass it to you and say, hey, Mweshimiwa,
no.
There's this stuff,
no.
You know, there's 791.
You don't talk every day on money matters. The budget of the ministry was 110 billion shillings. You talk ballpark figures. You say for youth empowerment, the budget is this. For gender, the budget is this. For revolution, the budget is this. That's under youth empowerment. So that's how you discuss it. You don't go into the details of every day.
But don't you want to know who's spending what or how much stuff is?
We don't get involved in procurement at all. And I don't think there's any minister who does. And by the way, Jeff, let me say something else about this issue. We've had conversations in this country and allegations about money lost in corruption, isn't it? A lot more money than this 792. And by the way, as I said, it's recovered. We're the only ones who are talking about
What about the 600 and change million? The road in Kibera and all that?
That's the same. The 791 was the one inside the road.
Okay, goods supplied by firms belonging to one of the scandals masterminds, Josephine Kabura. They said there was another 609 million.
I think they're still, I don't know about whether they've recovered that or not, but I know the 791, that was the one that we reported, the one that was the adding zero, that money was recovered, right? And they froze quite a number of assets that are linked to that, because it's very easy to trace money, by the way. You don't walk into a bank and deposit 20 million, they don't ask you where you got it from, you know? In fact, when they swept various houses, they found money.
Sure.
If you were to ask them, they would tell you where they found and how much they found where, you know?
Yes.
So anyway, my issue was back to my point about the clearance letter, and immediately after that, I want to take you back a little bit. March of 2015, there was a list of shame, right? Some people were sent home. That is where the rain started beating us.
Why?
Because some of those people who were sent home, and whoever didn't want them sent home, decided that I would pay the ultimate price to hit back.
Why you?
Because they thought that if they pushed, at that time, they thought if they pushed the president hard enough, then there would be a negotiation of some of them coming back in, right? Because in their mind, they assumed that it would be difficult for him to let me go. So they pushed it. Right?
Yeah.
And they pushed it to the extent when I just said I can't take this anymore. We need to. I will leave.
Did they think you were getting some kind of protection from the president?
You see, because they started the narrative on NYS. I mean, it was a very well choreographed narrative. And you know, I'm not the best person to discuss this for the simple reason I'm the one in it. But if you ask, and that's why we've decided to write a book, a couple of us, on this matter, tracking conversations. Who met where? Who was in? There was a war council, by the way.
Are you going to name names in this book, at least?
Oh, yeah.
You're going to name names? Okay, at least. Okay, let me put this question another way. Were you getting some kind of protection from the president?
I have never gotten any protection from him. I don't know anyone who has been taken through such a grueling experience in government. I don't know anyone.
But you took it.
I took it. If I was being protected, it would have ended. I think they too. And I'll give you an example. We hear nowadays of a scandal in a ministry. One headline. I don't see the second day. I don't hear the minister discuss the third day. I don't hear the governor in the newspapers. In fact, there is one particular county where an officer of that county government was found with 800 million shillings in cash in his account. One headline, and that story finished. I was in 26 headlines. 26 between May and November. And you think it's normal? Jeff, you think it's normal? You're in the media. You know very well it's sustained by a budget.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would be having all these other scandals that they were talking about. Eurobond, for example. It didn't even do 5 headlines. It didn't. Okay, so let's talk about when they mention health. One, and it disappeared.
It comes back to you then. Why you?
Why me?
Why you?
I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Because you fought back?
People, maybe I refuse to die. Someone told me, you refuse to die, that's the reason. Somebody else says it's other things to do with politics, which I'm not a natural politician, so I don't quite understand it.
Yeah. Let me get to that in a moment. Monica, where's that soundbite when Mheshimiwa resigned that time? Let's listen to that soundbite and then I'll ask you a question.
I have therefore, following my doctor's advice, requested His Excellency the President to relieve me of the responsibilities of Cabinet Secretary, Devolution and Planning.
relieve you of the duties of Secretary, Devolution and Planning, relieve you. And then you went on to say you would like to request for lighter duties. So why did you resign then? What pushed you to that edge?
Especially the media war. It was getting to me, to my kids, and I think it got to a place I said it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I think for now, let me leave, let me get better, and then we'll see. And that's what I'm telling you. Look at the coincidence. There was a clearance letter that was addressed to Joseph Kinyua because I was going to go back to government. These people said there's no way we can be out, and she's in. And they crafted the Kafura affidavit. And if you doubt me, call the CID, call NIS and ask them.
Are you suing Mohoro? Are you suing the CID?
Why would I sue him? Why would I sue him? What has he done?
So you were cleared as far as you know?
As far as I know, I was cleared. Then they took up the investigation on the Kafura affidavit. We've written 5 times. And I think you've hosted my lawyer here several times. And you've asked him. We've asked them, make public the finding of the Kafura affidavit. We have asked. Make it public. So even the issue of saying, investigate and make public, like there will be something that they will find, there'll be nothing.
If I was you, and I'm not, but if I were you, and many people were in your position, they would have gone off into the sunset and disappeared. You decide to stick your neck right back in the fire and run. And you had said earlier, you're not a politician. You're not interested in politics. What is it? Do you think running for governor of Kirinyaga will give you some kind of protection?
I don't think so. Let me tell you, Jeff. I think circumstances in life change. You know, people, we've had various conversations with very many people. What next? You know, what do you do now? I mean, these people are very bent on ensuring that you don't come back to public service. I mean, what next? And people from my home said, come and stand here, because we believe that you have something to offer. We saw what you did in Kibera. We saw the transformative programs of Huduma Center, for example. We saw your awards. And by the way, Jeff, let me tell you, I must have made some people very uncomfortable. 15 awards in 3 years.
You?
5 international awards. United Nations, #1. AMIA, #1. East and Middle East, Africa and Middle East. I was #1, together with President Uhuru and another president. Somebody was getting very uncomfortable.
Somebody was getting very jealous and very pissed off.
Somebody was getting very uncomfortable.
And you were getting all the airtime.
And I think so. And I think somebody really got upset about it. And so they got, and whoever, and you know who it is, because I'll tell you, every time I go home, they tell me, we know who's fighting you. I go to restaurants to eat, and the waiter who serves it from Western Kenya, they tell me, tunajua vile unachapwa na nani. They tell me.
And they give you the name.
They tell me, yes. So we can sit here on social media, get some bloggers to blog what it is that we think is convenient, but we do not deceive Kenyans, Jeff. They are not stupid. Kenyans are very clever people. You can get your NASA brigade to send the text messages saying, no, we will not vote for her. I guarantee you, and I'm sure you saw my ratings the other day in the Star, it's 80%.
We're going to put it up. Monica, do you have those ratings in the Star? We have to put it up because, you know, that's my other question is, if you see you and Sonko and Kidero, by the way, you were all red carded by an NGO the other week. You, Kidero, Sonko, who else was there? Waitito as well, Joho. You were all red carded, and yet someone like you is running at what, 80%?
Yeah, let me say something. And that's what I'm saying. Kenyans are not foolish. Huh? You know, we sit in Nairobi, Jeff, and go to our social clubs and talk to each other in this echo chamber where we tell each other what we want to hear. So we keep echoing back to ourselves. You know, Waiguru is really not good. And some of those people even know who wrote the affidavit. But they're having this conversation like they have no idea. And they continue with this narrative about who Kenyans should be electing as their leaders. Let me talk about the red card. And by the way, with a lot of due respect to Transparency International, because if you look at my history, I have a historical association with TI. I would have expected a lot better than them. When we were there, we did a little bit more scientific work than coming up with red cards that have no ideological underpinning. You don't just wake up, for example, and say that based on this PAC report, that because it has said it should be investigated, that you should not stand. Yet, that same PAC report has indicted some people and said they should be charged, but they don't put those people in the red card list. What does that tell you? So the people who are supposed to be charged are not in the list, but those who are being investigated and you haven't found anything are on the list. What does that tell you?
Tell me something. Many of your colleagues have been cleared by IBC. Quite a few of them. Some who you think appointed. People like Murkomen and others. If you don't get the clearance in the next day or so, what happens?
Jeff, there are no two laws in Kenya, one for Waiguru and one for the rest of the country. There is not a single, I'm sure some people would love it, that they can have a special law for Waiguru so that they can take her to court just on allegations and get her indicted on allegations and jail her and just silence her, for heaven's sake. I'm sure there are those who wish night and day, because I've come to realize there are those who have very serious feelings about it. But unfortunately, there's one constitution, and the laws apply to all of us equally. And therefore, you cannot wake up and discriminate me because you don't like me, or because I sued you, or you get your brigade to punish me, and you don't apply the same to the other people. Let me say something. It won't happen. So I won't even say what I will do. Let me say something about the PAC report. Do you know, by the way, all my issues are allegations, because there's not a single iota of evidence, right?
So
they're allegations.
Yep.
So they are, you can say so far, but they're allegations. You see, when you say so far, it's because you are also one of those that we must keep finding.
No, not me. I have nothing to do with it.
You know, in law, the administration of justice, there's a law on administration of justice. It says that within reasonable time. So you cannot be in a perpetual investigation for 5 years. But let's keep looking. You haven't found. Let us find, because there must be something. You get?
Yeah.
Because that's called witch hunt. That is not an investigation. That's called a witch hunt. You know?
Yeah.
So let me say something about PAC. There were allegations that they asked for bribes. If TI was actually the vanguard of integrity as they pretend to be, one of the people who should have been on that list of theirs, the red card, is members of the PAC. Because
who asked for bribe?
Because not us. They are allegations. We're talking about allegations. Okay. Because even for me, it was allegations.
Did they ask you?
Even for other people.
Did they ask you?
Yes, they did.
For bribe? All of them? Some of them?
No, some people, some random people.
In the committee?
Not, yes, members of the committee.
Like Gumbo and his people?
Some people.
How much?
10 million.
A piece or for one?
I guess it was for everyone. And by the way, Jeff, this is not a story.
Yeah.
There are people, because it was so rampant, there are people who have recorded them. There are people who have recorded
asking for money.
Yes.
Okay,
it's just that they won't produce it for whatever reason, and they're hoping to either use them for protection or whatever it is. But it was so rampant, it was not a secret.
It's kawaida.
I mean, you had Mutangudi saying the same thing, and somebody else also saying, Murkomen said the same thing, and I experienced the same thing, so I know that it happens.
But tell me something.
So if they are asking so that they can write a favorable report, what then you would expect is that the TI would say, this report then is not credible. And we'll wait for a credible institution to give us some recommendations and conclusions. In fact, it's historical in this country of ours that a PAC has been disbanded, if you remember, for the same allegations. There was one that was disbanded in the previous parliament, remember?
Yeah.
So, it's not new.
When they asked you for 10 million shillings, what did you tell them?
I don't have it. So write what you want.
That's what you told them?
Yes.
To his face?
And they wrote what they wanted. And they wrote, and that's why if you read the body of the report, and you read the conclusion, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
Maybe you should.
So, on the issue of the red card, just to say, you don't wake up and pick people. If you're writing about integrity, my friend, go and ask people in this country. They will tell you some names they would expect to see there if you have a red card on integrity in this country. Those names were not there. So they can't sit there and say that out of 1,500, these are the ones that we want. I mean, who made you judge and jury and investigator and prosecutor over us? You're not even, I mean, you yourself, we would question your integrity just for writing that red card. We would question it.
When that report came out, were you surprised?
The red card?
Yes.
Not really.
When the PAC report came out, were you surprised?
No. I knew what they were going to write. I was following as they were writing, because they kept informing you, this is what is going to be written. So you know. So I wasn't surprised. I knew it was coming. That's the reason why we've been able to file what we've filed, is because we've been working on the court papers for a while. So every time we know they've written something, we work on the court papers.
Okay, you said there's no way they will deny you your certificate. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because they are governed by the rule of law. And I'm a firm believer, if you remember, of the rule of law. There are people who are charged in court, Jeff, who have been cleared. What justification would you use for somebody who doesn't even have any tangible thing on them to deny them to run? So, what? Just because some people have managed to pay the media to get her on the headlines 50 times? Is this country becoming a banana republic that if we shout loudly enough, if Jeff, and by the way, Jeff, you should know better about allegations. You of all people.
Yeah.
I mean, look at your history. You know people can't make allegations.
Absolutely.
And put you in the media. They did that, didn't they?
Sure.
I mean, but was there anything? No. So, what am I saying? People can come up with allegations. And by the way, if we continue with this trend, and the reason why I'm running, by the way, is to make sure that politicians in future don't wake up and take a scapegoat and arraign them just because they have the power and they feel like it, and that person is so small, so we can trample on them. Because what will they do anyway? They need to know that that person can go to court. Maybe,
and I come back to the point I made earlier on, maybe they just thought you were getting too close to the presidency. They would, obviously, they must have been jealous, or they must have been vindictive, whatever you want to call it. Maybe they thought you were getting too close.
I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's just politics. Maybe somebody has told me it's got to do with I was rising too fast, you know. Just me as an individual, you don't come from nowhere and start looking like you're taking the line. I mean, there's all manner of reasons. Who knows what the reasons are? But the point is, Jeff, that in this country, I hope that many women, many young girls, many people who are not privileged, so to speak, will look at my fight and be encouraged and know that I may not be a very big person. I may have very big people fighting me, but I can stand up for the right thing and survive despite the discomfort. I hope that's what will happen to many people.
Yeah.
I hope that
if you were a man,
I don't think I would have gone through this, by the way. I think it's also an issue of gender. And I'll tell you, it's not just me. Look at what they've done to Gladys Chalet. Look at what they did to Baraza. Let me even use Baraza, for example. And I don't want to demean the action that she did. She pinched her nose, right? Kidero slapped a member of parliament. Slapped. I mean, honestly, did you hear anything on Kidero? No. And I'm not saying that there should be. What I'm trying to tell you, that in this country, first of all, extremely patriarchal, extremely. Women are disadvantaged. And we still have a problem with women rising up. I'll give you another example. Today I was looking at Wavinya Ndeti's story. And I said, what has she done to deserve all this attack? Is it just because she's a woman? I mean, everybody is landing on her, you know? And I think it's an unfair treatment that we give to women in leadership. And I think because I have fought back, I hope that some women out there will get the courage to say, hey, I will stand.
Okay. A moment ago you talked about allegations. Let me ask you this. When you see yourself, 50 headlines, when your son comes to you and says, Mom, you're all over social media, they're hating on you, they're talking all kinds of crap about you, how do you feel?
Terrible. Who would want that? You know, terrible. But let me tell you what. My kids have been on that social media. My son was put on social media that he owns this fancy car. I need to see this.
Yeah, 20 million shilling car.
And he said, what? He said, I wish. In fact, at that point, he thought it was funny. Yeah? He wrote back and said, I wish I owned it. You know, I wish I did. And later he said, I hate this country. What kind of people are these? You know, why are they doing this to me? And it tells you how far we have sunk as a society, Jeff. And it's not just me or my children. The other day I saw someone being interviewed on TV and crying. He's just singing his songs, and people are hating
Jimmy Gate.
Why are you hating him? Don't listen to the song if you don't like it. Why are you abusing him? I mean, what has become of us as a society?
We're hateful.
I mean, you wear something, they hate you. You don't wear it, they hate you. So that's why I say, I don't even read, by the way, Jeff, I don't read papers.
You don't?
We don't buy them in my house. We don't watch news.
You don't?
I don't even watch this program.
You don't?
No.
Come on.
I don't. We don't watch news. We don't buy those papers. We don't read them.
It's that bad.
How
it's that bad.
We keep saying, yeah, because why would you buy if you knew that the stories are bought and they're paid for? Why would I? It's not news. It's what somebody wants you to listen.
But then you have to, I mean, you walk into a supermarket as you do.
And say it, and say, oh, what are they saying about me today? And I move on.
And then people are pointing at you.
Actually, they don't. They tell me we're praying for you. Many people tell me we're praying for you, madam. As I was walking through the doors here, I was told by somebody in this place, we're praying for you. They say that all the time. And Jeff, if you doubt it, look at my numbers during nomination. Look at my ratings when they started it.
Well, social media said you stole half those votes.
Well, that's social media. They'll say whatever it is they want to say. You saw me screaming my head off, running from one place to another, making sure that they do not steal my vote. And in fact, on the first day, I'm the one who made Kirinyaga election be cancelled. The second day, the second time we went out there, it was a lot better. So what am I saying, Jeff? I mean, social media, you know how social media is manipulated.
Don't die.
You know, I mean, you get attacked. You people, in fact, your media is worse. You know, it is worse for the people in the media. I mean, I read sometimes and I say, why would I want to do? You have to just close your eyes, ignore it. It doesn't matter what they say, by the way.
And move on.
And move on.
Hold that thought, okay? I'm going to take a break, come back, and talk about Martha Karua, your rival in Kirinyaga. What's your relationship with her? Do you talk to her? Don't answer now. Hold that thought. In the meantime, the polls are changing. The question we've been asking you, would you vote for Waiguru as governor of Kirinyaga? Right now, 35% say yes, 65% say no. Keep voting. SMS number 2242. You can tweet us at Waiguru at Kirinyaga Jeff, the hashtag JKLive. We're going to take a quick break, come back, talk some more. This is riveting stuff. Stay tuned. JKL. We'll be back in a moment.